And you may be able to get it dry enough to be able to wet sand those water droplets out within about 10 minutes. Otherwise, you can take I've used a Kleenex, I've used a paper towel, I've used a shop towel. Blue shop towel is actually my favorite for doing this if I had to. And you take the corner of it and you dip it in, get the little water droplets out, blow a little air on it, pop some clear on it, blow a little air on it, pop some clear on it, and then come back and do a final coat to bury it. And in most cases, this tends to help. And then you have less to wet sand and buff when you're done. So, just a few minutes. Again, I don't want soap staining, so I've already misted this, so I need to wipe it off. I don't want more work than I have to have. In this truck, I've got about 60 hours. Probably about $1,000 material. And I'll probably have another 10 in it. The good thing is I don't have to put this truck back together. So as you can see, as it starts to dry, you start to see where I've missed. And I didn't really want to get on that edge much without being able to see the rest of the panel. So I do this so I can see where I need to be. So what I'll do, still need to get down here a little bit. And the owner said it doesn't have to be perfect. He said if he's got to have his detail guy do a little denibbing, whatever, that's fine. I said, well, my goal here is to not have that. So I want to take any texture out of the paint job. I want to take anything in there out that could mess with me. And just felt weird right there. Felt grainy. So, with that being said, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit this again. I'm going to go back over it. I'm going to switch out a piece of paper. And again, I'm choosing to use 600. I feel like I'll have a better bite, and I've already tested it out. Shouldn't have any cloudiness. No grain seeing through. In the clear, we're using 2 more coats of that. Even 1 full wet coat, just as an actual, as it's going to be titled, a flow coat. Still got one right there. It's going to be heavy. This clear builds about 1.1 to 1.3 mil. So a 600 scratch, in theory, should not show up. If it does, I'll polish it. If not, we'll let it ride. So I'm just going to come back and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go back to where I was. And now I can see again the transition. But with this pearl color, you must be very careful, because you could actually roll through thinking that that dark spot is just a dark spot that you need to get wet sanded smooth because it's texture. And it won't be. It will actually be rolled through the base coat or rolling off your pearl coat, and then you're going to have to come in and you're going to have to try to match that pearl up in the middle of that panel. Otherwise, you're blending the whole side of this truck just to make sure the pearl gets right. Now, I've pre-mixed all the pearl in the clear base coat, so when I do the tailgate, as you see, it's not here. Tailgate should match. If not, it's a transition line that's already a wide gap from some prior damage on the bed. Reversing the damage on the bed would have been having to cut spot welds, move the bed sides in, because it stretched the entire back rail. So after I got everything straightened out, the gap's about 5/16 on either side. but it's even from top to bottom. So if it was going to be a white or a silver truck, I'd have done a lot more to try to get the gap closed up. Tailgate had a lot of damage. Didn't really ask for another replacement, even though I know he probably has one. But I'm more the guy that, man, if I can fix it, I'll fix it. Takes me a little longer, but the gratification of him saying, man, that tailgate was terrible. You made it look great. You know, that's the show of a true body man, truly, which I'm sure there's a lot of us still out there, but as most things, it's a dying art, and it really is an art. You can make a panel look smooth. You can fix a dent. You can do this, you can do that. But can you sculpt one without curves, without putting lines in it? That's the question. The artist, abstract tends to be hardline. Some kind of linear vision in an abstract. Naturally, things are curved. I mean, look at us. Look at us as a species. Look at anything else on the planet. We're all round in some sort. Our heads are oblong balls. Our limbs are actually, they're not straight at all. The bones in our bodies are not straight. Human eye looks for straightness. And even in my OCD, I have to make sure these lines are straight. I need to, at least on a dark colored vehicle, make sure the lines are straight from the doors to the fenders and the transitions. If it's a light colored vehicle, a silver or white, and I'm doing one nice like this, my gaps have to be uniform all the way around. Otherwise, it drives me crazy. It's just how I am. And I'll go the extra mile and do that little extra sometimes without charging somebody. Even though they won't notice it, or they'll be like, man, you didn't have to do that. I'll be like, you know what? I didn't, but I wanted to. Because to me, I'm not the type of person that wants to paint over a dent either. So I get to that point. Sometimes I'll price things so high that it turns them away. I've done that before. I don't like doing it. But it's because, you know, there's so much that has to be fixed on one and they don't want to replace panels. And I'm not talking about a 69 Charger here or a 68 Chevelle Super Sport. We're not talking about something like that you really care about keeping all original parts. You know, there comes a time where, you know, to put a bedside or a bed on the back of a truck versus fixing 20 hours worth of body damage really kind of, you know, becomes common sense. With this one, I had to fix the top rails weren't too bad. They weren't. And when we clear it and I show you, you'll see that they actually look really smooth. And this is all hand block. I haven't used anything on this truck except for this. And I've done a multitude of body work. The bottoms of both doors were caved in. I pulled most of those out with the stud gun. Dents on the rockers, pulled those out. Quite a few imperfections all across both bed sides. It was like Morse code down the side here. Same with this. A few dents up here. A couple bad wackadoodles down here. And then of course both backs of the bed sides behind the bumper were cracked. I did weld those up. Had a helper here. He kind of welded some stuff up too. And after a little body work, some cracks developed again. Had to go back and handle that. But you know, all in all, the little things here and there, this really doesn't take that long. The monotony of it, when you let it sit in your shop too long, when you let it stay too long and don't get enough done in a quick enough time, it becomes monotonous. And then that's where you get kind of in that funk. I think we've all been there. I think we've all been through it. I think we can all relate to it. Those of you who are watching, you know, potentially picking or critiquing something that I'm doing, something that you would do different, you know, hey, leave it in the comments. Give me a different idea. I do have 800 grit sandpaper, but to me 600 is, in my opinion, going to give me a better bite. I prep everything else with 600. I'll do it with this. I will rub over with a gray Scotch-Brite, which is advertised as being equivalent to a 800 grit. So it is going to technically get that. I am moving with the panel here. So this wheel opening is not flat right here, say like a F-150. This wheel opening is, you know, it's got a curve to it. It's got an angle. So all I'm doing is I'm floating my fingers on the corner still, and I'm letting that block rock like this while I'm sanding. That's all I'm doing. So I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure. Mainly the only pressure I'm putting is my back and forth motion. Now I'm not looking at it. This is not something that I'm going to get down and look real hard at an angle. My focus, my eyes, as are most people, now I'm 6'3". Most people's eyes are going to be on this point and on this point. Then they're going to come down here and their eyes, my eyes, look down this door and across that fender and look for straightness. When I'm looking, this is the most important part for me, to not see any ripple or body damage, because that's what draws your eyes. Now in some of these cases, you get in here and you'll start blocking. And you'll find a spot, and I do have one over in that door. It was a ding that I missed, of course, and it's right in your face. I asked the owner about it. He's like, man, don't worry about it. He said, the truck looks great. You're doing a little more than you should have. Do what you do. Everything's good. This right here is a perfect example. I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to try to block that out. But if you were, you can come in here and you can go like this. There is a little nib, so I'm going to work just a little bit. You come in here and you can run your 45, you can run your 45. But the human eye sees linearly. So to create an optical illusion, you would come in and you would run with the panel of which you're going to go. And this is how I do most of my body work. Because if I still miss something, I still miss it. And most of the time, I feel it out pretty good. Even though I know this is here, I have done this linearly with the panel, with the way my eye is going to be trained. So in theory, it will not be as noticeable or as prominent to the eyes because you have moved with the panel. A lot of body work is greatly optical illusion. A good, honest painter or good, honest body man will tell you this if you didn't learn it in automotive school or body classes. Now I'm using as a regular towel here. I'm not using anything special. This is just, listen, the wife got new towels, and I don't ever bring them down here in the shop because I know they'll never go back up there. But I use this one just for this truck, just so I can wipe off the excess sanding or the clear coat material that I've wet sanded off that you're seeing gathering up here. That's all I've done. But I also don't want moisture sitting on this panel for a very long time because of the aforesaid soap stain. Sorry about that. Should have gave you warning. I had to step away. Guess I could probably just edit that out, couldn't I? So again, I've got some wax and grease remover. It's Master Pro from your local O'Reilly's, like everybody says. Although again, I'm not a sponsor, or I'm not sponsored by them. But you know, I also don't really charge markup on my material. I include my material cost in my labor cost. I'll do about 6 or 7 of these a year, and Normally they're about $200 to $2,500. This one was some leftover remnant, a lot of mismatched paint mixed together to get a nice deep blue. Wanted to get out of the shop before it ruined. This is one of those ones where probably a lot cheaper than I should have done it, but new acquaintance and a chance to maybe further pave a partnership, you know. And as I spray this, I'm going to come back and I'm going to wipe it first. And if you notice, I twist. I'll roll that around and I'll come back and grab. What that does is it helps keep any extra dust that's loaded in that rag. It helps me keep it gathered up against the back of the rag and not spread it across the pen. This may take a few extra moments for you to do. It may take a little extra. You can see that. And that's just from wet sanding. What all I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a good way of checking. Being in a body shop, wax and grease remover is a really good way to check your body work. It evaporates fast, and it actually gives you a pretty good idea of what it's going to look like painted. And as you can see, just misting this, trying not to run the wax and grease remover, missed it as, oh, see, listen, he thought I was spraying clear coat. Did you see that? He thought I was going to spray clear coat. So what you can see here is, yeah, I did run it a little bit, but my clear coat's a little thicker and I got more air pressure. So all I'm trying to do is show you that right there is how that's going to look when it's painted. But what it's also going to show me is whether or not I've cut through and whether or not I've gotten all the orange peel, all the texture out of the clear coat, and it lets me know if I have any severe soap staining. I know I keep harping on that, but that's one of those things, especially if you're at this point, that you don't want to try to have to wet sand back out while you're already buffing. You don't want to try to do that. You do this in the sun, and that material that you've sanded off, if it's there, you're gonna have to deal with it. You know, I'm not done here. I'm still gonna take a 600 Rhino pad, and I'm gonna go over this. I'm gonna keep it all in one direction. That's another thing I firmly believe in, keeping a firm direction. So where I've come in here and I've went 45 against the grain of everything else here, I'm gonna focus on this in here. I'll come in with some 800 after the 600, and then I'll run the gray Scotch spray. That should help fade any of these scratches in. I don't want to push my luck with what's up front. That's why I didn't go any further. Biggest goal with this was to have no breakthroughs, not to break through any point on the surface of this. Now I did over there under that mirror, but it is under the mirror, and unless the person's 5 foot tall, they're probably not going to see it. And at that angle, they probably won't see it anyways because of the shadow. So I know that's going to be a term that we'll deem cheating. Otherwise, I never paint anything unless an edge is dull. I never paint anything shiny. I'll go the extra mile to wet sand an edge, or to get a finger in there, or to get a plastic trimmed clip tool or whatever, and with a gray Scotch Brite and get an edge. That way I don't have anything flake off. I don't want any paint flaking off of this thing. I don't care if it's now or 5 years down the road. If they maintain it, if they keep good care of it, as long as I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, there won't be any issues. So I hope this helps. I've just used some 600 sandpaper here, a decent little flat block made for wet sanding. I'll next come in with some 800. I've still got a few little spots here and there, but I like to handle these edges a lot different because in most cases there's less material than there is here, and then there's less material here than there is right here. or that edge will drop down heavy. This side, this bedside, this cab corner, and this door sprayed differently because I had cleaned my gun out. So there was a lot less texture here. There was a lot less sanding that needed to be done. And yeah, so I'll come back and I'll use my little, let me grab one. Gray Scotch-Brite. It's a little worn, but I use these things to where you can't use them anymore. I love the little thin ones. Man, they scuff so much better. Again, you only need, okay. This is the Rhino pad. It's pretty good, 600 grit, dump it straight in water, lasts forever. Now all I'm gonna do is present to you, this is a little damp from rubbing down the hood and the front fenders. But all I'm going to do is I'm going to use very, very light pressure, and not even enough to squish it down. And I'm going to show you how really quickly these things do. All I'm going to do is just this right here, and I'm not pushing down. I'm letting the Scotch-Brite do the work. That's all I'm doing. Like I said, it's a little damp. That's it. That's it. That's all we're going to do. These things are phenomenal. The big honking gray things that you get at generic places, they do the job, and those work great with prepping materials like scuff stuff or whatever, a urethane bumper prep. But as you can see, just in its drying, I barely touched it. Just a few passes. Dry this off a little quicker. Again, it's a little humid here today, so I'm not going to paint it tonight. I'm going to make sure everything's dry in the morning. If not, I'm going to run my heaters and get the shop really nice and dry, really warm. It's not super hot here. We're in North Carolina, so if you're around the area and you know how it is, just that fast. I scuff that clear. And with very little effort, they scuff very well. A box of them is about 25 bucks. I think there's 20 or so in there, but I can use one of those scuff pads and prep, both door jambs, the back of the cab, the front of the bed, the edges of the bed, all before paint. I can use one red in that same form. They come in a box. I can use one of those, do the entire bottom side of a hood, both inner fenders, both bottom sides of the inner fenders. I'll have to, I guess I can open it up. Let's take you over here. So again, the bottom side of the hood was already sprayed. The engine compartment was already sprayed. We did a soft edge on this front edge. All we're going to do is clear the top side because I had to blend in some pearl. So we taped these off before base coat, and then once the base coat was on, we peeled the tape. And of course that one's got a little bit of overspray there. We'll have to clean that up. But the owner was very, very happy to see that these had been taped up. They had been taped up decently clean. I didn't do these. My buddy did. While I was prepping other stuff, but he did a really decent job. Once they're in clear, once everything's on, that's already one coat of clear. I'm just re-clearing. So I've gone in and really tried to do my best to prep this truck and give the best result. That's what I want to do. Just give it my all. That's what we all need to do. Not only with what we do, what makes us happy,